Syria has met the first deadline of a very ambitious plan to get rid of its toxic arsenal by the middle of next year. A mission of international chemical inspectors has now said that all declared chemical arms production and mixing facilities have now been destroyed. And as RT's Paula Sleer now reports from the capital, Damascus, it was a very difficult and dangerous task, certainly given the circumstances of the ongoing war.
Dangerous and dirty. That's how the Nobel Prize Committee described the work of chemical weapons inspectors inside Syria, not to mention their brutally tight deadline. October 25, Damascus provides a detailed plan of its chemical weapons stockpiles. Done. October 27, foreign inspectors visit all declared sites. Missed. And by today, Syria finishes destroying all equipment used in the production and mixing of poison gas and nerve agents. Done yesterday.
We shall eliminate, whatever we can. But this is a very complicated process.
Complications fueled by so-called security concerns. And that's the reason why one deadline already has been missed. One of the biggest problems the team faces is how to access sites in rebel-controlled areas. So far, the rebels have been unwilling to cooperate. Foreign inspectors have managed to visit 21 of 23 sites. And although they haven't verbally blamed the rebels, Damascus insists it's doing its share.
Until now, those sites being visited are under government control. And we hope those who are controlling the armed groups tell them to implement what they are expected to implement.
It's the most difficult mission ever undertaken by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, destroying a country's chemical weapons stockpile in the midst of a civil war.
Syria actually stopped producing chemical weapons in 1998, as it possessed alternatives that can be a strategic substitution and are not in conflict with international law.
But none of this answers the reason why foreign inspectors are in Damascus in the first place. A chemical attack on August 21st, in which hundreds of people were killed after rockets with sarin gas were fired at Damascus's suburbs. Those responsible are still at large. The next deadline in the destruction of Syria's chemical weapons program is the middle of next year. By then, Damascus must have destroyed or removed its entire stockpile. An ambitious timeline in very difficult circumstances. Paula Sleer, RT, Damascus.
And the destruction of the chemical equipment now means the country can no longer produce new toxic weapons, though it still has a lot of work to do. It has to get rid of more than 1,000 tons of chemicals that do already exist. And we spoke to a Middle East analyst, Sharmani Narwani. She believes the Syrian government will be greatly relieved when all of its chemical weapons are destroyed.
There is evidence that rebels have their hands on some chemical weapons. We've certainly seen in Iraq and Turkey rebels being apprehended with chemical agents, components of chemical weapons in their possession. A really important point, and this is something I heard from a Syrian government official earlier this year. The Syrian government has for some time now viewed chemical weapons as a liability and a burden precisely for these reasons, because potentially rebels could get their hands on small amounts of these chemical agents and use them across the border in Israel or Turkey to then justify a military attack against the Syrian government. So they have been quite pleased that the international community has come together to, in fact, rid them of these weapons, so that excuse no longer exists.